Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. My name is Wendy Morgan, and I'm a Senior Presidential Director with LifeWave, and I come here today to share with you two wonderful testimonies that people have to share when it comes to activating their stem cells. But I couldn't do this on my own. I am joined today by my lovely co-host, Ann Sontag, who's also Senior Presidential Director. Ann, would you like to say hi?
My name is Ann Sontag, and I am a Senior Presidential Director with LifeWave. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be speaking about today. We're going to be speaking about the light technology from LifeWave. The LifeWave company has actually been around for a little over 20 years. The technology was discovered by David Schmidt when he was asked to discover something that would help the Navy SEALs stay awake without using acetaminophen, caffeine pills, or any kind of stimulants. So David was already in the industry of light therapy. So he discovered how he could reflect the light back into our body, where the body would therefore be activated to pull fat from the body into the mitochondria to make ATP, which is energy. So this patch is called Energy Enhancer, and we actually still have it today. We love it. So since then, we've released over 10 other patches. However, our Holy Grail patch was released in 2019, which is the X39 stem cell activating patch. So let's get right into our testimonies of these two moms with special needs daughters, so you can hear about these ladies experiencing activating their stem cells and how it brought about regenerative effect within their daughters' bodies. So Dina is a good friend of mine who lives in Arizona, and she has been on an incredible journey with her 16-year-old daughter, a special needs daughter, Jaylin. So Dina, would you mind unmuting and telling us a little bit about what life was like before the patches and with your daughter, and what's going on now with her, and how these patches have affected your family life? And you'll have to unmute, Dina.
Okay, how's that?
Great.
Okay. All right. Well, hi, Ann. I have a lot of information, a lot of details to go through because there have been so many changes this year, and I know a lot of families are going to be able to relate with this. So I'm going to kind of go fast. Is that okay? Okay. All right. So I'll start with Jaylin. Jaylin is 16. She was born with a rare genetic disorder. It's called Cornelia de Lange syndrome. And from the beginning, she had significant developmental delays in all areas. She also has severe ADHD, and even from birth, her body never stopped moving. Even during sleep, she would move and twitch. A therapist once said to me, imagine driving a car going 100 miles an hour with no brakes, and that's Jaylin's brain. So that's what my daughter lived with. That's what we lived with. For about the last 10 years, she's had 6 to 8 seizures per year. And life before patching was extremely challenging. She could never be unsupervised, not even for a second. She would sneak out her window. She would constantly try to do things she couldn't do, and especially things she wasn't supposed to do if she was not supervised. One night she got up during the night and took my keys and backed the car out of the garage. And it was terrifying when I found out what happened. It could have been such a disaster. She had very poor coordination, so she was constantly dropping things, breaking things, spilling things. I was constantly cleaning up after her, just chasing her around. It was kind of like having a toddler, a real big toddler who could do things. She had to be told everything to do every time. I had to tell her, wash her hands, close the door, close the drawer, flush the toilet, wipe your face. She fought me on everything. She would get combative with me and would start breaking things when she was upset. She's very social and she loves people, but the problem with that is she has no sense of stranger danger. So it was very concerning. She would run to the door to open doors if the doorbell rang. She would run out to the gate if there was someone out there, delivery drivers or anyone else. She would go up to people, like break away from me and go up to people when we were out in public and hug people that she didn't know. And I've always had her in a lot of activities, but I always had to be right there at all times to coach her because of these things. So bedtime was also very challenging. She would constantly get up once I put her to bed and wander around or even go outside. This would go on for several hours. So I could not rest I could not rest until I knew she was sleeping. And the other thing was she never slept in like teenagers do. She'd be up at the crack of dawn and she had the most energy in the morning. So we just hit the day like that. So fast forward to January of this year, and we started the patches. I started her on the X39. It's all I knew about at the time. She fought me. She didn't want that patch on her body. So I put it between her shoulder blades where she couldn't reach it. And even with that, I found her in her room, was trying to scrape it off against her dresser. And I resorted to threatening and bribing and anything I had to do to keep the patch on. So eventually, day after day, it got a little bit easier. She'd fight me and then she'd forget about it. Jaylin is homeschooled and she has a tutor twice a week. And on those days, she needs her ADD meds to help her stay focused. She'd been on the patches a few weeks and it was a tutoring day. And it was around 9:30. I had her medicine. I went to find her. And normally about this time, a fight ensues, for her to, she does not want to get ready. She doesn't want to brush her hair. She wants to play with the animals. And I found Jaylin at the table with her books all spread out. She had made herself a snack. She'd made herself a drink and she was reading a book, which was astonishing because I had never seen any of those things really. And especially reading the book. She's not a bad reader, but she would never read a book on her own. So I observed her, and the first thing I noticed was that her body wasn't moving like it usually is. She's usually twitching and just constantly moving, and she was perfectly calm. So I decided to forego the meds that day and wait to see if the tutor gave me any input. I figured that would be a good test. When the session was over, he told me that her concentration was great, his words, and that she was very willing to try new things that day. And those things were not normal. So when he came a couple days later, I told him she was not on her meds. I told him about the patches and he said, I want to do a math test. Prior to that, the best she had ever done was 51 out of 100. That day she got 100 out of 100 and her speed was greatly increased, according to the tutor. And she's had no meds since then. So in March, we did another assessment, the big assessment, which we had done in January, where she had scored 90, putting her at a kindergarten level. This time she scored 300, putting her at an upper third grade, lower fourth grade level. So just dramatic, all across the board, academics, behaviors, she changed. She doesn't need 24/7 supervision. Shortly after that was spring break here, and I took her to rock climbing camp the whole week, all day long, Monday through Friday. She was there. It was not special needs. It was typical kids. She did great. I can go to bed at night. I just tell her, turn everything off, make sure everything's locked up, and I'll see you in the morning. She goes to bed. We don't have any of that. She's taken responsibility for herself, her chores, her room. She's taken an interest in her appearance, which she had not prior to this. She recently told me I was embarrassing her. So I'm starting to notice more age-appropriate behavior and thought processes. There has been no more combative episodes at all, and we haven't had any seizures in 6 months. Did I mention we had seizures? Yeah, I think I did. She sleeps in. She started sleeping in just like a normal teenager, and I have to wake her up, and it's fantastic. So she's learning things she couldn't learn before. She has started piano lessons and ballet. Prior to patching, she was doing addition, simple addition and subtraction. She is now doing multiplication and fractions. Before, she could never master money. We were always working on that, counting bills, coins, making change. She completely has that now. So she enjoys shopping with her own money. and paying the cashier and buying her own things. She even wants to buy her own food and use her own basket. And she's talking about her future, which was a concept that was just foreign before. She's talking about, she brings things up like, when I get a job and move out, she says stuff like that. So it's just amazing how different things are now in this short time. And one more thing I'll share is that she did hug everybody else, strangers and everyone really, but she had never hugged me. She when I would try to hug her, she'd put her arms down, she'd look away. And just a couple of days ago on Tuesday, she came up to me and she hugged me and she wouldn't let me go. And it was an amazing experience. And I still can't believe all this. And I thank God from the bottom of my heart for all of this. One more thing I will add is we do have friends and family with kids with special needs. And I have 4 families and one is a family member on the products, and every single kid is having amazing results. 3 of them real life-changing results, just like ours. So I find that kids are responding extremely well. All the kids X39 only. So that's it.
Oh my goodness, Dina, I don't think there's a dry eye in the house tonight. That is, what can we say? It's like, we're just so thankful that you said yes to the patches, and that we're thankful for David Schmidt for inventing them. And that was incredible. Wendy, do you have any questions for her?
Yeah. So just how short of a time, I mean, when did I didn't catch when you started patching with her?
I started patching like mid-January.
Okay. And you basically have a whole new person on your hands.
I do. It's so great. It's like the real Jalen.
Yeah.
And really, you know, it's just the beginning of our journey, because now she can learn. Finally, she can learn. And so now we're just moving forward. You know, we have a long ways to go, but I'm so hopeful. Now I have.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Just thank you so much for coming forth and sharing your heart and sharing your story and sharing your family story and your daughters.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. With that, guys, we're going to go right into another unbelievable, wonderful, beautiful story about another child who has cerebral palsy. So Pam, if you would unmute yourself and say hello.
Hi, all.
So Pam, let us know, first of all, where are you from and what is it that you do?
We're from Louisiana, South Louisiana, where it's very, very hot. And this year, for the first time ever, it's very, very dry, uncharacteristic. Our story is different. Our Katie is 42 years old, and Katie was born completely normal, not a problem. And at 6 weeks old, she had E. coli meningitis, and it wiped out her nervous system to the point where she didn't even have a suck. So she lost the ability to even suck her bottle. So we have been 24/7. Every single thing that Katie needs is provided for her. She can feed herself with her right hand because that's the only thing she can use until now. And so everything that happens is like caring for a newborn 24 hours a day. We started patching Katie in March. I had a friend that told me had sent me a mercy gift of X39 and Ice Wave and just said, try this on. And so I did, but my mom brain was only thinking about pain, and Katie wasn't in pain. So it didn't dawn on me that this would help her. I just didn't know. And one morning on March 4th, she woke up and she had a crick in her neck. And when you put her in bed at night, she has to stay in the exact position she's in. She could not ever move herself to reposition. So you have to get it perfect every single night. And she had a crick in her neck. And I thought, I put an X39 on her trap And that afternoon, my husband said, you know, Katie's happy. Katie's always happy, but she was happier than normal, and she was loose. Her body was looser than normal. And I thought, well, that's good. Well, that night he realized when he gave her a bath that she had an X39 on her. So the next day I thought, why not do it again? And that afternoon we have to lay her down after lunch because her circulation to let her stretch out again, and she can't stay in her wheelchair that long without getting those legs stretched out. So we put her in her room, turned on her music like always, and we heard this laughter. And this laughter was just like somebody was in there telling her the best joke ever, but it was only us in the house. And we opened the door, and our Katie, that has had her arm contracted for 42 years, had straightened her left arm completely out and raised it over her own head. And she was just looking at it, just laughing and smiling and like, look what I can do. And that arm had never been straight, and it had never been over her own head. And we just pretty much fell to our knees and cried because we witnessed a miraculous recovery. So we have been patching since March, and now she's up to the Fab Five. And I had a wonderful person named April Vaughn that said, come sit with me.
Sorry, guys. I don't know where it's at. Continue.
If you do this, Katie will gain more. And she just said more of everything. Well, April Vaughn was right. We've been using the Fab Five on Katie now, and her favorite thing to do in the afternoon is straighten out her own arm and just rub it and feel it, because she can now. She's talking more, she's humming, she's singing, she's engaging with people and allowing them to engage with her. We've never let anybody touch Katie, and she doesn't touch anyone. But now she is wanting for people to come into her space and talk and be with her and interact. And she's doing it with such grace, and she reads your heart. She never looks at the outside. She's always looking about who you are. And we got to take her on her very first vacation in 20 years. We went to Texas with her, and in the heat and all the activity and all of that, a wonderful man walked up to her and asked her if she would like to dance. And she looked at me, and I told her it was okay. And he took her and he wheelchair danced with her while the band sang to her. And that was her very first dance. So she has a boyfriend now. He might not know that, but she does. And one of the ladies was walking up, and Katie just looked at her from across the room, and she just read her. And she took her right arm, which she can use her right arm, but she bent it at the elbow because she wanted to give her a hug. She didn't know the woman's story, but she hugged her and gave her just a big giant mercy hug. And it's exactly what the woman needed, but it was exactly what I needed, because my girl can now hug with both arms, and that's never happened before. So when you said that, a hug is worth a lot. And this little tiny patch has the power to do that. If you just put it on and give it a little time, drink a big glass of water. We now watch Katie. She can move both of her legs independently. She can bed dance. She was playing with the lyrics of a song the other day, and they were singing "God's Gonna Get You for That," and she was dancing with it, and she'd go and she'd point that finger, "God's gonna get you for that," and then she'd laugh because she gets it. It's been in there all this time, but it was stuck. It was a body that knew what to do, just didn't know how to do it. And these patches have unleashed her freedom and given her the ability to express herself. listening to your daughter sing after 42 years is amazing. Watching her flirt with her new boyfriend, it's just precious. But more than that, when you ask, if I asked our cardiologist the other day, and Katie's in perfect health, but I asked him, what would you tell if there was an auditorium full of doctors and you'd say this person had E. coli meningitis at 6 weeks, wiped out her nervous system. She's 42 years old now. What words of encouragement could you give to their parents? He said, there wouldn't be any. We would be preparing you for the decline, not for the increase. And Katie is increasing every day. Every day there's a new skill. This morning, we went to get her up from bed, and I'm crying. And she had both knees in the air, both legs were bent, her knees were in the air, her arms were above her head. And she took it and she did a stomach crunch, and she had her head, everything was off of the bed all the way to her shoulders. That strength that she did not have, having her legs both bent up was something she did not have. Not having Clonus in her hand is just a miracle. To see it, to not jump. But driving back from Texas for the first time, Katie rode with me shotgun. She was my shotgun rider. And instead of me holding her hand on the trip, she was holding mine, because she can open that left hand now. And she held my hand. And when she felt like she had gotten over too far, she actually took her left arm, straightened herself so she could put her right arm on the armrest of the car. This is skill that doesn't sound like it's huge, but when you've never had it, this is like climbing a mountain. She has climbed mountain after mountain since March. And I think we're only at the beginning. I don't think that we've even come to a peak yet. If you know somebody that has an inability to do something, share the patch with them. Tell them the story. Tell them the potential that this little tiny disc holds. The potential is unlimited. If I would have understood it better sooner, we'd be so far down the road now, but we know it right now. So now we're doing better. We're doing more because we know better. And for every mom out there, there's hope. You don't have to stay trapped. There's hope.
Again, just like Ann said, there's not a dry tear. Thank you. There is a question that has been asked. You know, some people are not familiar with the Fabulous Five, and I'd wonder if you'd like to share that with everyone.
So the Fab Five is X39, which is what begins our stem cells to activate, of course. X49 is the co-conspirator, as I say, that helps it and emboldens the body to do more, gives it more flexibility, strength, stamina, helps the heart, helps the brain. Carnosine is fabulous to protect the brain, but it also takes the heavy metals and aluminum and the toxins that are in a body, it draws them out. Glutathione is just liquid gold. It is the master antioxidant de-stressor. Eon, I didn't add Eon, but behind the ear, Eon will take the most stressful of situations and just unwind it. It is like consuming 30 cups of royal jelly a day, which is very difficult to do, but that's what the patch emulates within our body. And what did I forget? Did I forget one?
Carnosine, Aeon, glutathione, X39, X49.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the 5 that will give you a new perspective on life.
Right. Sometimes some people add Alavita to it as well, but
She does Alavita every night.
Yeah.
Kitty, because she sleeps in the same exact position, every night, and her hand is always in the same place. She has a compression bruise that has been caused on her face. Since her using Alavita, she hasn't changed how she sleeps, but that compression bruise is almost faded to nothing. I forgot, Katie doesn't seizure any longer. She, with mosquito bites or stings of any insects, that's been taken off of her list. The compression bruise is going away. She had a polycyst in her nose that we have been trying to deal with for 5 years now. And we noticed, with no luck, no medication, nothing was making it move. And they talked about the possibility of having to cut it out or drain it or whatever they wanted to do. And it is disappearing. It is almost completely gone and non-visible now if you look at her. That I contribute that to the Cornazine and X49 to X39. I mean, that's what's drawing it out. I'm positive.
Yeah. So here's a picture, guys, of Katie. And she just gorgeous. Sorry, we have a little glare there. You can just see her energy. She is just so full of energy and bubbliness and light. I love that. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful picture of her.
But be careful what you pray for, because we prayed for her to talk, but it came with sass. And there's a lot of sass.
That's a good thing. Anne, do you have any questions?
I'm just, I'm overwhelmed by the goodness and of just your faithfulness as a mom, and your being persistent and your love for your daughter. And it's exciting to see that you have hope now, and now you can offer a hope to so many other mothers as well. So I just want to just thank you for all of that. Wow. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam, for coming on. And thank you so much, Deanna, for coming on as well. And guys, we're going to have them back in 2 weeks. The moms are going to share their stories. Hopefully, we're going to see if we can coerce them. But thank you, the two of you. And I would love both of you to come back, because I know this is just the beginning of your story of how your children their bodies are now repairing itself, and the new them are coming out and being able to do new things every day. So I'd love to have you back sharing your daughter's story, maybe in another month or two. That would be beautiful.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much. So for you newbies, if you're wondering, what is this that they're talking about that brought about so many wonderful experiences with these children? Well, this is it. As Pam kind of shared, it's just a patch, got one side already off. And on the back, we have like little things that come off just like a Band-Aid. And you see in the center there is a piece of gauze. And that's where basically all that wonderful, so Edgar Thomas, if you could mute yourself, please, I'd appreciate that. I can't find him on anymore. I don't know why this doesn't come up anymore. Give me a second, guys, to see if I can find him. Okay. So anyways, inside that piece of gauze is where all that magic is happening. So inside it, this is a non-transdermal patch. There's nothing in the patch that's going into the body and forcing the body to have a specific outcome. It literally is just organic salt, sugars, amino acids, and water to create a specific light crystal lattice, And that crystal lattice, when you place it on your skin, now there are two specific spots, one behind the neck, one below the belly button. But yes, just like you heard Pam say that, when her daughter, had a kink in the neck, they put it directly right on, on the trapezius area. And you can totally do that too. This particular patch you put where you need it. And as soon as it touches your skin, the infrared, we're full of light, guys. We now know of infrared, such as using night vision goggles. The infrared starts to heat up that crystal, get it vibrating. But you also have a full spectrum of light. And David Schmidt learned that by reflecting back in specific light waves, they can activate the body to have specific outcomes. Now, this particular technology is called, fancy word, photobiomodulation, but you've actually been doing it your whole entire life. Now you go out into the sun, right? The sun's light waves kisses your skin and it activates your body to make vitamin D. Now, you do not need the sun to have these patches work, no, because you are the sun. You are reflecting back your own light wave, specific light waves. Now, with this X39, our holy grail patch of X39. It's reflecting back specific light waves that activate a peptide. It's called GHK copper peptide. Now, GHK copper peptide is now the precursor to reawakening your own stem cells, bringing them out of hibernation, and also making brand new baby pluripotent stem cells. Pluripotent is a fancy word to say blank. And with innate intelligence of your body basically says, for instance, if you need nerve and healing that nerve tissue, it tells those pluripotent stem cells, you are now nerve stem cells, go out there and heal the nerve tissue. Now, GHK copper peptide is not new to any one of us. It was actually created, or it became about when we were in the womb. And in the womb, GHK copper peptide was, one of that steps of creating us in the womb. And then the body knew the next step was to create stem cells, brain, bone, blood, nerve, etc. And those stem cells literally 3D printed you in the womb. Stem cells created you, every aspect of you, physical, mental, emotional, all of you that there is of you to hold. And those stem cells stayed very, very plethorant with you all the way up through that of puberty. After puberty, for whatever reason, the GHK started to decline. And so your stem cells started to go into hibernation. So GHK to stem cells is similar like water to a plant. So when we don't water a plant, kind of pulls its energy out of its leaves and it preserves it into the trunk or the roots of the system. And that's kind of like what's going on with our body. As our GHK levels decline, those stem cells go into hibernation to the point that by the time you're 35, you're working with less than 45% stem cells that you had when you're 15. By the time you're 60, it's around 9%. By the time you're 80, we don't see any stem cell activity whatsoever. And that's all due to the GHK copper peptide levels are in the floor and not to be seen. So again, when you start wearing the X39 within 10 seconds, it's signaling to the body to make GHK copper peptide. And now those stem cells start to come out and start to rejuvenate the cells. So what do stem cells do to the now everyday body, right? So stem cells are what is the design in our being as to how to create healing, repair, rejuvenation, and replacement of cells that are damaged. So our cells get damaged by many different things. We live in a very toxic world, but nevertheless, when the cell is damaged, therefore, the body goes in and tries to fix it with the stem cells, tries to repair it. If it's unrepairable, if it's kind of like really too damaged, it'll get a pink slip, say, get the heck out of Dodge, and it will make a brand new stem cell in place, or a brand new cell in place of it. You literally are taking, when I started, a 55-year-old cell and replacing it with a brand new baby cell. You're literally reversing that aging damage process that you have accumulated through all the years. So with that, Anne, I think we said, basically, how do we get a hold of this, Anne?
Well, what I want you to do is just reach out to the person who invited you today, and they will help you get your own personal kit set up. So that's the best way that will help you.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you so much, Deanna. And for you that are watching, please reach out to the person that invited you, because we really look forward to seeing you on one of these patching podcasts in about 30 days to share your story and just how miraculous that has been for you. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me.